Gather around, Skull brothers and sisters. This is Skull World, brought to you by Minnesota Sports Talk. You can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at Skull World. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Any comment gets entered into my 3,000 subscriber drawing for Justin Jefferson autographed jersey. I hit 3,000, and your name gets pulled. I'm sending you a jersey autographed by Justin Jefferson. I got NFL Outdated from a Chicago fan. If you're looking at the thumbnail right now, we're talking about the first pick in the NFL draft. Introduce yourself. Tell everybody where they can follow you, and I'll have it in the description below.
Hey, first of all, thanks for having me on, Dave. You can find me on Twitter, X at NFL Outdated, on YouTube, our NFL Outdated right there. And we actually also have a weekly NFC North podcast where we obviously talk everything NFC North and how the Bears are going to win the division very soon, and all that Caleb Williams stuff, Justin Fields stuff. And you can also find me on Friesen4Pod on TikTok. We're starting to really blow up there. And shout out to a couple of our Vikings people on there as well. Obviously, we've had you guests on our podcast. Appreciated that. Always fun banter. But Shelby Tweeton's on there as well. So lots of great Viking content on there as well. And it's respectful. We don't yell at each other. We give each other a hard time. And it's a great place to learn about other teams in the division and what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's completely benign. No one gets heated ever, except for probably the two shows I was on. But no, at least one of them was. But
you brought the heat,
it was fun. I was invited back, so that was good.
Absolutely.
But anyways, first question: is it true that you have an 8-track on loop playing the Super Bowl Shuffle?
No.
Okay, because I thought that was a Chicago thing.
A VHS
on loop playing the video of the Super Bowl Shuffle, which is even better.
Well, yeah, and we got behind me, I've got Walter Payton, the greatest running back of all time.
You ruined my next question, but you answered it.
Yeah, obviously give some love to Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, but there is only one sweetness, and it really is, and that's the jersey I'm wearing right now. I kind of see it, but yeah, Walter Payton.
So I was going to ask you about that because honestly, back in 1985, I was young. We just liked everybody in sports. We didn't really just, it's just the Vikings, and we didn't grow into hating other teams until we were adults. We became more childish as we get older, but in 1985, that was the biggest deal. I just remember, and it's one of those things like we hate the Yankees, but I had respect for Derek Jeter. I hate I look back at the Bears and I thought, Jesus, sweetness was the thing. I go back and forth between Barry Sanders and Walter Payton as who do I got? They're kind of different, they're different players. But man, I think Walter Payton had the whole package. He was a power runner too, and you can't really necessarily say that about Sanders. So I can see maybe a tiebreaker going to him, but catch me on a different day, I might say Barry Sanders. You get that argument a lot on Twitter?
Oh, absolutely. Well, here's the case for Walter Payton as obviously the best running back, but football player all around. He is, especially for the Chicago Bears, he is number 3 on the all-time list of the Chicago Bears receiving list. Number 3. So there you go.
Does that say more about your receivers at Chicago than it does about Walter Payton?
That's part of it, yeah. But it also shows his versatility and just, how much he was relied upon. Yeah, I mean, just he could do it all. And just his work ethics were second to none. His workouts were just crazy good.
Yeah, I have mounds of respect for him, and he came to Sioux Falls one time to do something at a Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I lived, or near where I lived, and I had a buddy go to get an autograph. He didn't tell me he was coming though. His wife worked at the hospital, and he was coming to do some sort of event. And I'm like, you didn't tell me Walter Payton was coming? I was so pissed, man. I had mad respect. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you have respect for that. Speaking of your receivers, name your Mount Rushmore of receivers?
DJ Moore right now. I mean, really, it's yeah. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey is up there, and it's crazy. I mean, Johnny Knox. I mean, some of it's just a really nondescript group. I mean, Brandon Marshall is obviously up there as well.
True.
But part of it is, I mean, we've had some talent there. Part of it has been the lack of quarterback talent, as has been well documented as well. But I mean, it's just it's tough, as far as Bears history goes when it comes to quarterback and wide receiver. So
Yeah, when we throw out like a Randy Moss and Chris Carter, Anthony Carter, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, we got a few. We don't have any shortage of receivers. That's one of the things. We've had edge rushers too. So quarterback wise though, it's and we're going to talk about that here. Quarterback wise, Vikings have never drafted a quarterback in the top 10 picks of a draft. You have.
mm-hmm.
What was Jay Cutler a top 10? I forget.
Oh, he
I'm gonna have to
maybe
Google that.
was but he obviously was with the Broncos, and so
Oh,
that
that's
was.
true. You didn't
And
draft him. My bad.
but
You're
I
right.
do remember as a fan, when they made that trade, I was pretty pumped about that, and just the caliber of quarterback he was, and really you look at it, he is one of the best quarterbacks in Bears history. He's very, uh, I mean, people either love him or hate him. I mean, mainly because of his attitude and everything, but he was talented, and just that 1-2 punch of him and Brandon Marshall was amazing. I mean, he made you think you actually had a chance in every game. And I will contest to this day, um, had Jay
Been healthy
Cutler,
and it didn't get hurt in that. Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers would not have a Super Bowl. How crazy would that be?
That'd be
Caleb
great.
Haney, he beat Caleb Haney. So there you go. He would not have a
He
Super
was the
Bowl.
11th overall pick for
Okay,
the Broncos.
is that a
So,
Vanderbilt? I know. Yeah.
yeah, I was living in Nashville at the time, and he didn't have a winning season in college. So,
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
that was kind of crazy. Anywho, you've had some, let's say, misses at the quarterback position, and maybe
Mhm.
because of talent, and maybe because of like what he had around to work with. Um, you just recently got Justin Fields, who there was rumors that the Vikings were going to try up and trade up and get him, and they ended up trading down and getting Christian Darrisaw into a man. And the Minnesota Vikings fandom, they are. I've done polls, and it's like 95% that they would rather have Christian Darrisaw than have traded. Now, this is obviously revisionist history than
Mhm.
Justin Fields. Who knows what they would have felt like at the time, because we haven't had a quarterback, right? That highly drafted.
Mhm.
Now, what has the experience with Justin Fields been for you as a content creator?
Yeah, I mean, especially recently, it's just it's been good and bad, right? It's you're always gonna have conversation, and posts are gonna hit anything with Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, but right now the fan base is just it's fractured. It's you're either one or the other, and it's just it's a mess that way. But for me, I have and the guys on the podcast will all attest to this. In fact, the seventh letter, the Viking or the Detroit guy, Lions guy, called me Justin sexual. So I am pro Justin. I ended up going to the Bears Dolphins game, and that was the first game that they had traded for in the Chase Claypool, and that was one that he had the record, right, regular season record for rushing for a quarterback, and it was just amazing. Like obviously, it would have been nice to kind of get like some throwing records in that game, but just every single play, it's like a holy crap moment. Like, is he doing this? And there's so much talent there. There's obviously on as a playmaker, and a big part of it is, and I'm pro Fields until he's traded, and it may change this week. But a big part of it is you see the growth. I've seen the growth, not only rushing, but throwing. He's made some solid throws. Biggest frustration for me with Justin Fields is just how he's been. They've done him dirty. The Bears have, first of all, they signed a veteran quarterback, Andy Dalton, to start right away in his rookie season. And, it's come out that obviously Fields was not very happy about that at the time. And so he did not get any reps at the in training camp, and to really kind of see what he could do. And so that was frustrating right off the bat. And then they threw him in to the Cleveland Browns game with just an amazing defensive front, with an offensive line scheme that had a decrepit old lineman trying to pull, and just so many bad schemes that almost got him killed. I mean, it was like 9 sacks. It was just crazy. So he's had the coaching issues. He's had lack of offensive line talent, and he's still in his second year. He got MVP votes, for what he did with the lack of wide receiver talent around him. This year he got DJ Moore, and started to show promise, had 2 straight games, 4 touchdown passes in a row. And so there's so many people that will say he's a bust. They'll call him Bustin' Fields. There's absolutely no way that you can say Justin Fields is a bust or he sucks. Does he need to improve? Absolutely. He's a 3rd-year quarterback going into his 4th year. And he already showed a connection with DJ Moore. So on my end, obviously I'd love to see more wins. But I also love to see the coaches using him better. Even in last offseason, they changed Luke Getsy, had him change his footwork. And so when you have a franchise quarterback that has shown talent and shown his abilities, and you want to use that talent, you don't want to try to change them into Brett Favre, or you don't want to change them into Aaron Rodgers. You want to use their gifts and adapt your scheme to help them be successful. And so that's been the frustrating part for me. And obviously, on social media, whenever I say any of this, everyone's, just kind of like, oh, here's all these excuses. And I'm like, I am scared to death, Dave. I'm scared to death that the Bears will trade him, and then he's going to ball out next year and be like, see, you're right. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am a Justin guy until my GM tells me not to be.
7th letter might be onto something about you being a Justin sexual. No, I'm kidding. Right? I get crap all the time because I see so much misinformation about Kirk Cousins. Like I had an argument today. Not an argument. I'm like, I don't know where this guy's coming from. I'm like, Kirk Cousins is the first person to ever get a fully guaranteed contract. Now the context is sure, yeah, he got a fully guaranteed 3-year contract, but he's done interviews where he stated that his contract was based off of Matt Ryan's contract, where he got the same year, got 3 years guaranteed. It's just his contract was 5 years. So they decided to do a 3-year fully guaranteed contract and just not have the 2 extra non-guaranteed years, which gave both people flexibility. So it just kills me when misinformation. It's almost like lying by omission. I hate that crap. Lying by omission.
Yes.
And you may, and people will call it excuses, but it's just it's actual reasons and facts in a lot of cases. Now I've been on your show and I've said that Justin Fields, I see something there. I wouldn't call him a bust yet either. Which leads me to the discussion that Eberflus there was thoughts that he might get let go, right? Well, you got Ryan Poles here. He hired Eberflus. He did not draft Justin Fields. So there's a situation where if I fire the guy I hired that I said would run my team, then that's on me. But if I trade Justin Fields, That is not on me. That is not my quarterback I drafted. So I'm looking at this as like Ryan Poles might be using Justin Fields as a scapegoat if he hires he gives the he keeps the coach and then lets go of the quarterback. And now, because of your amazing trade with Carolina, should go down in history as one of the best trades ever, getting that receiver you got and the first round pick. Amazing. And now you're sitting there at 1. Who you taking?
Oh, that's just so much in that. So much in that.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're pretty long winded, so I'm sure you can find enough information.
So before I answer that, right? So it is interesting. Like who knows what's happening with Ryan Poles. I like what he's done so far. The 2023 draft. We landed on a lot of solid starters: Tyreek Stevenson, Javon Dexter. Obviously, and then we got the number 1 pick. So for this year, so I think last year there were a lot of hits. And so the question is Ryan Poles under pressure to win now? Right. And I think that maybe will, govern what he's going to do. I was surprised, and everybody was surprised that Eberflus stayed. But I think part of why he stayed was because of how much that defense improved when he was the play
Right.
caller.
You guys did definitely improve defensively throughout the year.
What sucks is Eberflus stayed, and throughout the season, there were 2 of his assistants that were let go for HR issues, including the defensive coordinator. Like it's so weird to keep a coach that has his guys have HR issues that are still, it's kind of clouded in the mystery. What exactly happened? No one really knows yet. And it's because of HR. So I think the next best thing was, well, and even when you say Eberflus is Poles guy, that's not even 100% sure either. Like it's possible, and it's been floated out there that Eberflus was on a short list that was given to Poles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was on a short list, and then Poles said, "Oh yeah, well he was on my list too." So who knows that? But obviously he wants to stick with him. I think it's a lot of part of the defense, and so I think you're talking about scapegoats, and we don't know quite if Justin Fields is the scapegoat yet. I think already we know Luke Getsy was, right. He was like, okay, well, and they've said it in press conferences the last few weeks. Eberflus says we want an offensive coordinator, an offense to be when they introduced Shane Waldron to be adaptable, and Getz did not do that. And so when you look at it, adaptable means you have a quarterback with talent, use that quarterback. So there's so many layers to this, like, and we won't know until either there's a trade for the number 1 pick or Justin Fields gets traded. And I like that what Poles is doing, because I feel like whatever they're doing, whether it's trading Fields or trading the number 1 pick, they're holding their cards close to the vest. And I think that's important to get the best deal possible. It's negotiating one-on-one, right? Don't tell people what you're going to do. And you get a new offensive coordinator that can work with either young quarterback or new one, or young quarterback or Justin Fields. So you said, okay, so hypothetically, right, if we stay at number 1.
Hypothetically. All right.
Yes, I am all in on Justin, but I am okay if they go ahead and decide to move on. Caleb Williams is obviously the presumptive number 1 pick. I get a little nervous when you hear everyone only talk about the positives. Generational, right? I mean, there are players currently in the NFL. Justin Jefferson is, I mean, you could say he's a generational wide receiver, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Randy Moss, absolutely
For
is
sure.
generational. But I get nervous when you only hear the positives. And so, like, I've had interviews with former scouts and different people that talk about Caleb Williams. Like, he's only 6'1". You look at all of his tape, all these analysts say he can make all the throws, he can do everything, all these positive things. But I mean, watch the highlights closely. Who does it remind you of, Dave? It reminds me of Justin Fields.
Mm.
Like it, him spinning out of plays, him, making plays on the run. It reminds me of Justin Fields, and so it's hard for me to say, okay, I want a rookie quarterback to come in when I see my team that was almost 10-7 that they're there. Their defense is starting to transform. So it's really hard for me to be like, okay, let's go ahead and draft Caleb Williams. If we stay at number one, that's going to be the pick, and I would support that, right? But it's hard to turn down if they're going to trade down to 2 or trade back, just how many
Don't
picks
say
they
it.
would get.
Don't say it. Marvin Harrison Jr. I
Yes,
would absolutely die. I want you to. I
that's
want you
my
to draft
guy.
Caleb Williams so bad because I don't want Marvin
Okay.
Harrison Jr. in the North.
See, that's so Marvin Harrison or even Rome Odunze, I think the Bears are going to have to sign a wide receiver in free agency plus draft 1 or 2. They just all they have is DJ Moore and basically practice squad guys. So there's going to be issues, right? With that. So it's such a nuanced question. That who would you pick at number 1? I mean, I'm not 100% sold on Caleb Williams, so I would not. I would if I would trade back.
What if this happened? You draft Caleb Williams, or hey, you might even trade down and take Jaden Daniels because maybe Washington likes Caleb Williams. So let's say you one of those two things. Then you now have more picks, and then you trade up to 3 and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I would
Yeah.
die. I would shoot myself. I think if you did that, and I would hate that
All right. Well,
because you
don't
got all
have
this
any.
cap room. You get a star like a receiver like that to go with the DJ Moore, who I think is
He's top
this.
10 in my
I
book.
would, yeah, he's definitely good. The 3 best receivers in the league are in the North, or him and Amon St. Brown and Justin Jefferson. So, you know, I don't know where they got. I don't know where the Lions people are getting that Amon St. Brown is better than Justin Jefferson stuff. But they are different players. But come on, man. I'm like, come on. But yeah, that's the thought for me. And then you got like 75-80 million dollars of the cap space before you do anything. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you could put a pretty good team together. Maybe the smart move is to build around Fields a little longer. It is hard to pass up one of those quarterbacks, though. I like this year. I'm high on most of us in my circles got Jaden Daniels number 1, and then Caleb Williams. And then it's like
Mm.
some people are high on McCarthy, some people are high on Drake and May, and then everybody else. You know, with Penix and and Bo Nix being in the second round type of player, but may still might get drafted in the first just because of the 5th-year option. But that's the way we've been looking at it. Have you like any of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, I've heard
I
a
know.
lot more about
Put
Jaden
your
Daniels.
Justin Fields aside. Tell me about, is
So
there a quarterback you're like, hey, I wouldn't mind this happening? I know Caleb Williams we just talked about. Is there another one?
So yeah, I mean, it always seems to happen this time of year, right before the draft, that like some quarterbacks kind of get talked about a lot. Last year, Will Levis, was like, oh, maybe he'll be number 1. Jaden Daniels, obviously, it sounds like you guys like him, and I've heard my guy Coach T Bears 360. Fantastic Bears creator as well. He's breaks down the tape and he talks about Jaden Daniels going through all the reads and really being able to do that, effectively and being actually one of the best quarterbacks at that. Right. I worry about locker room stuff. Is a we had Jay Cutler, right? And I think his teammates really loved him, right? But he was prickly with the media, and it was just wasn't here for it. I think you want a quarterback that's going to be a good culture fit. Jaden Daniels, I mean, obviously there's the stuff about his former teammates before he went to LSU, right? That were thankful they were going through his locker room, and I don't know if you saw it going through his locker and Instagram live that they were excited that he was gone, right? So I
Oh,
think,
really?
yeah. So there's some of that his teammate, is he a good
Well, he
teammate?
struggled. He struggled there, and you're not going to get a lot of friends if you're struggling.
Right. But I mean, are you a good teammate? And so, there's a lot about that. I To say a North Carolina quarterback is would be my guy. I just going through the Mitch Trubisky experience, I don't know if I want to go
Yeah,
there
you might
yet.
want to cross that one off. Yeah.
Um, so Michael
Is that the
Penix
same
is
draft? That was the same draft as Pat Mahomes, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and that was the bad thing. I think it's just at that time Ryan Pace, he was in the draft room and he picked Mitch Trubisky, and he looked around in the draft and said, "Hey, you guys, you had like everybody in the draft room, you had him number one quarterback, right? You had him number one, right?" So he wasn't even sure himself, yet he picked him, and so that obviously that's why he got fired. So
I did not know that. I did
yeah,
not know that. So
yeah.
that is a fireable offense to not know
Absolutely. So
if
I
that
am
was the
going
number one
to
QB.
there's so many question marks. I'm going to say I still have reservations, but I would say Jaden Daniels. I would be good with that as well. Because that means you get a young quarterback, but then you also get all those other picks, because it's just hard for me to really and I haven't done all the studying the tape. But the big thing with Fields is you have a lot of people say, well, look at his record. He's 10-28. He's this and that. He can't win against the better teams. What did Caleb Williams do last year against the better
Seven and
team?
five.
Right. And against the
Yeah.
better teams, against
We
you know,
get the argument that Kirk is mid because he's a 500 quarterback when he's 13 games over 500 in the NFC. He's got a winning record in Lambeau, got a winning record against Aaron Rodgers. Uh, it's like it's just silly talk. It's like yeah, we go through it like constantly. Kirk Cousins could not win enough games for somebody, some
he
of the
can't.
fans. So
I Before last season, I said that I've been a huge Kirk fan. I would love to see the Kirk narrative change and him do well. Like even I had picked him to get, I think, at least 5,000 yards, and he was on pace. He was doing well, right? And so I think quarterbacks get a brunt of the record. That's not all that it's. There are other factors, roster factors, other factors in it. So
it's so funny how this is what happened. Like we're 1-4, so all the Netflix stuff went out the window. Like, oh my god, and all the turnovers. It's because of the leadership of Kirk Cousins, and then
mhm.
he comes out with the, hey, we should listen to Creed. He loosens the team up. Is like his idea, and they start loosening up, and they stop fumbling, and we go 4-4, or we were 4-4 now, and just beat San Francisco, and then we go to Lambeau and go up 21 points, 24-3, and then he blows out his Achilles. We
Mhm.
haven't beat a team. We were haven't beat a did an ass whooping like that in like 3 years, and look, it felt like it was turning around. But once his Achilles gone, the Wolves came out again, man. And he was first in passing, first in touchdowns, second in passing. He has 6 touchdowns less than Lamar Jackson in 9 less games. And that guy won the MVP. So it's like, hey, what would it have been like if we would have just kept going? We might have been buyers at the trade deadline. The defense, who knows, maybe doesn't play as bad as it did the last 3 games. Played it good against you guys mostly up until the last drive. But the last 3 or 4 games, it was just it was like the crap show of 22. And you look at it, you win 13 games. All of a sudden, 13 games isn't 13 wins isn't a QB stat anymore because it's Kirk Cousins. But JJ McCarthy, they talk about him like he can't lose. He's a winner. Look at all the games he won. Look at his record. Oh, it's a QB stat for him, but 13 wins with the 31st ranked defense is not a QB stat. So it's like it kills me to see people have this take over here, but flip it around to benefit them over here. So I am I was not a Kirk Cousins supporter up, and I started to look at him a little bit when he won a playoff game in Louisiana or New Orleans. And then the next year started out slow. I'm like, oh man. And then, took off. We ended up losing to you guys end of the season. It was a horrible offensive game for us. People says, oh, we couldn't even beat their second team. You guys, your starting running back had one of his better games that game. He had like 20 some carries. You guys were not playing your backups against us. You were wanting to win that game, and but we weren't. We didn't have it. We didn't have it. Oh, that was 2018. My bad. But 2020 bad defense, 21 bad defense, 22 bad defense, or a good. It was bad. It was like the worst defense I've ever seen this half. 31st ranked, and then last year finally, after the first 3 games, it was shaky, but that whole middle part, we ended up getting to top 7 in scoring defense. We were just on the upswing. And now I want to see, with the 2 years we have, possibly if we extend Kirk, is have all this cap space to do what you guys said we couldn't do because his contract was so big. Even though his average contract value is 15th in the league right now, this is a window to add to that defense and bring back the same offense. It's like, hey, I want to see what we got. My curiosity was piqued after 2022, after going 4-4 and the way he ended it, unfortunately, injury. I'm piqued. I want to see that. You have that same thing. Like, it sounds like you have the same thing with Justin Fields. It's like, let me put some damn weapons around him. I have faith in this kid.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. Like, it's, there's so much, like, I've been watching the games and like, even with the Eagles, not 2023, but 2022, like the end, like, you just see some of these plays and you're like, oh man, like, if he just, had this, if he had a center, he doesn't get injured, it, if you have a roster put around, not just for the quarterback, but for the whole team to kind of, get the wins and be in position, that's what you want. And it's hard to, look at. I mean, how close the Bears were to 10-7, and it's funny because a lot of people just say, "Well, the Bears are terrible." Right? Well, that's absolutely not true.
I hear the same thing about the Vikings. I'm like, were we really? Yeah, we lost our quarterback in week 8.
So that, that it's always interesting. You kind of look at the Bears and the Vikings. Obviously, we had the same record, right? 7-10.
We were 3rd though in the division.
Okay, well, we had the same record. So when you look at it, I think the Vikings, they obviously, the defense kind of carried them, right? And I think you look at pieces. There's so many pieces defensively. So the Vikings, to me, as an outsider, they have to decide, what do you want? And I know, like, it's easy to be like, okay, well, I want to see what they're, what they can do. It's hard to be at a point like, okay, well, can this team win a Super Bowl? When you have, obviously, if they decide to have keep Kirk Cousins, they have a window open. What is that window, or what is the max? Maybe 10 wins, 11 wins.
Well, when people say that, oh, he can't, you're going to stick around 509, 10 wins max, lose the first round. I'm like, we won 13 2 years ago. It's like, oh, it was fraudulent. It was fraudulent. Well, that's what makes it so much more amazing, because our defense was so bad that someone had to rise all boats. And who do you think probably did that? I think Kirk Cousins played out of his head.
I do. So
it was amazing. Honestly, there was biggest comeback from behind victory ever. The Buffalo game, he was playing with bad ribs and he stuck it out and pulled out the win. Yeah, I don't think 10 wins is the limitation of Kirk Cousins.
Well, okay.
Bringing back a Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison was leading all rookies with touchdowns in the 8th week, and he only got like 2 more the rest of the year under the other quarterbacks. So there is chemistry there. We won 3 games in a row with Kirk without Justin Jefferson, 2 more in a row without Justin Jefferson. So yeah, give me that offense, pair it with a defense. it was funny. I was like, one of our YouTube guys and local radio dude goes out and talks about the Timberwolves and says, "Hey, they're the #1 ranked defense in the league. The 83% move on in the playoffs. 50 make the semifinal, the finals. 23 win the championship." And I said, "Now do NFL defenses that rank 31st, and tell me what that winning percentage is." And we get this. Kirk is not the problem, but he's not the answer. Well, I tell you, the 31st ranked defense is not the answer for sure. So fix that shit. And we did. We improved just by changing the coach. We had less talent on the defense. We went the 13th scoring defense with just a new coach. Add me some pieces and see what comes. And this is the best cap situation we've had in a long time, and they just raised it. And then we get rid of, if we cut Harrison Smith, we gain another 15 million if we post date at June 1st. So yeah, just give me a better defense. The offensive line's playing better, mainly I think because of the different coaches we put in place. I get this all the time too. They never spend any resources on offensive line. Every single offensive lineman that started last year, including the guy we replaced our left guard with, so 6 starting offensive linemen that they had last year, all first and second round picks. We put resources on the offensive line. We weren't just and our two tackles are like elite. Our left and right tackle are elite in by any measure in the league. They were top 10, whatever PFF grades all year, both of them. So we have pieces there. We have a tight end, even though he might not come back in October, but with Jefferson, Addison, I think we're good. Just give me a better defense, man. That's all I'm saying.
So that's why at the beginning of last year, I thought that Kirk Cousins would throw for 5,000 yards because of the defense, right? And they definitely improved. But what I would worry about, so it's so easy to talk about quarterback and put wins and losses on quarterback. But yeah, like you keep saying as well, need a better defense, need pieces. So it'll be interesting to see if, Danielle Hunter, right? I mean, there's been rumors that Bears are interested in him. And so that would be my question as far as with the Vikings. Do you want to compete to kind of be in the playoffs, or do you want to rebuild? Because and I'm sure you get this as far as back and forth, Kirk Cousins or move on. If the Vikings do not re-sign Cousins, they're going to be 3-14 in 2024.
Could
right?
be, yeah, could be.
I mean,
So I wanted to. I guarantee you, other fans of other teams do not want us to have Kirk Cousins starting this year. Just make it harder for them to win. But
Yeah.
like one of the what was I going to say? One of those situations.
Well, yeah, even with the Packers, like they off season is just gonna be nuts, just nuts. I mean, they were 9-8, and yeah, I mean, before Kirk Cousins was injured, I mean, they were well on the way to an L in that game, right?
Say that again.
The Vikings were going to beat the Packers, right, in that game before
We did
Kirk
beat the
Cousins.
Packers.
Oh no! Did they beat him when he
we
got
won
hurt?
by 2 touchdowns.
Oh,
they were really
okay,
trying to come back though.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, we got
but there was only, I think, yeah, I mean, it's so easy to be like, okay, well, the Packers made that run at the end, and Packer fans are going to go nuts with that. So obviously, so you had asked with the Bears, and so like, for me, we started to have an improving defense. We started to see that, and that window is open. I want to win now because I was a couple years ago when we were tanking. I'm like, let's just continue to tank and get the #1 pick, and we did. Obviously, we traded. Now we have another #1 pick again. Continue to add to it, but Justin Fields has seen NFL defenses, and that matters. He has improved, win now, and I think he can do that. But the rosters around him, the defense is starting to improve, and we can add more players in free agency. That's going to be huge. So it's so interesting with these teams. if someone would ask me a question, could the Bears win a Super Bowl with Caleb Williams in 2024? Absolutely not. Maybe in the future. Could the Bears in the near future win the Super Bowl with Justin Fields? I'm gonna say yes, and a lot of people are gonna push back on that. My question to you then, obviously, I mean, do the Vikings have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl with Cousins or without him?
So that's the argument I crack on people about the anybody but Kirk scenario.
Mhm. It's
Now
just
you
it's
gotta someone's
wild to
gotta
me.
tell me who they want better.
Yes,
Anybody but Kirk is not a plan. So
it's not.
then uh then I'm like asking, hey, name me the quarterback you want. Um that will what's the scenario? And I don't get a response ever. Ever.
Mm-mm,
And I
mm-mm.
remember what I was gonna say. The last time we had a 15th or better ranked defense, we won the playoff game. We won our first playoff game, and that was 2019. And they were like, and they always want to bring up 2018 where our offensive line coach died. Dalvin Cook was coming off his ACL, got
Mm.
600 yards rushing. We fired DeFilippo mid-season. It was Kirk's fault. Yeah, well, those are excuses for Kirk. Now, name me a team that's going to go through all that shit and win the division, right? And we almost
Mhm.
did make the playoffs. We just had to beat you guys at the end. But 2019 defense, still good. We lose Thielen for a while. We end up making the playoffs, 10 wins. We're 7-point dogs on the road, and we pull it out and beat the Saints. And we fumbled the first drive of the game in our own territory. So there's like, hey, give me that again. Because 2020, bad defense. We had riddled with injuries in
Mhm.
2020. Defense we lost Daniil Hunter. It was bad. Wanham was our best sack artist with like 7. But then 2022 or 2021 we were just bad. I don't know what happened with we were just giving up yards. We had bad clock management. We gave up more points in the history of the game at the last 2 minutes of the half and the last 2 minutes of the game. And the history of it being recorded in 2021. But then people, Kirk has never won anything. I'm like, who's going to win with record breaking bad defenses? So that's what I'm saying. Last time we had a 2019, last time we had a top 15 defense, we won a playoff game. And we went to San Francisco, and who's going to win on the road in San Francisco? It's tough. But
Mhm.
hey, 2022, man, we beat San Francisco. We had one call away from tying, or if we go for 2 against Kansas City to win that game. I mean, we were doing good, man. We were coming back. I wanted to see what that would end up like. If freaking Nick Mullins can almost beat the Lions, then I wondered what we could have did with Kirk Cousins. I mean, we were driving in the end of the game. He throws an interception, we lose. But we had them. It's just the what ifs, and it's piqued my interest so much that I just want to see what happens. I want to see it. Give me it. Give me 2 years of off season. Give me 2 years of this awesome cap space we got coming up here, and give me 2 years of drafts where we now, instead of 6 picks, we got 9. Give me that. I want to see it.
You're
And
exactly where I am with Justin Fields. Exactly. I wanna see it, and obviously it's so easy to say move on, and now the Bears are
of
in
course,
better
we're at the
position.
different stages of career. Oh, he's 36 with an Achilles injury. Well, was he a running quarterback? No.
Right.
So,
Well, so and obviously the Bears have the number 1 pick. So if the
yeah,
Bears didn't have the number 1 pick, it would be a moot point. They would be staying with Fields or
probably, yeah.
um but like I want to see what they can do. And it's none of these quarterbacks are guaranteed. I mean, last year the draft, Bryce Young was like the unquestioned number 1 quarterback. And I'd have to look back. I'm sure a lot of people said generational. And I still think Bryce Young can be good. He was not put in good position with linemen with wide receivers. Obviously, they traded their best wide receiver to the Bears. So every quarterback needs to have players that they can rely on. They're going to catch the ball and not drop it, and then linemen as well. And so, like when you talk about who's going to be number one, if it is Caleb Williams, I wish him all the luck, and I want my Bears to win. Caleb Williams all the way. But I think it's just when you look at the history of these quarterbacks, you just never know. I mean, that as a Vikings fan, I mean, was it like 12 or 13 that they went with Christian Ponder one year, right? Like it's kind of like.
So we won 10 wins with Christian Ponder in 2012, but it was Adrian Peterson ran for 2,000 yards. And
So
I won a few $100s off some people that told me how bad the Vikings were going to be. I'm like, all right, I'll take the bets. Let's go. Ponder kind of managed the games. He'd throw up some fucking balls every once in a while, but he gets hurt last game of the year. We faced the Packers without him, and it was done from there.
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at Justin Fields, he is not a game manager. I mean, there are times there's times that it looks like he is, but mainly that's the game plan. I mean,
he was fun to watch. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you straight. It was, I think it was 2022. We stripped that ball at the end of that game. I think most Vikings fans had the feeling that he was just gonna go down there, run around like Michael Vick on us, or RG3 did to us one year, and just take the game. But we made a play on a former Viking, which was kind of sweetness. But,
former Iowa Hawkeye player.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Amir Smith
You shall not be named. But anyways, I think you cut him after that.
Yes.
But yeah, not on your Mount Rushmore of receivers, but honestly, that's the way we felt. Now, this past year, we kind of kept Fields in check both games mostly. So we felt that's one of the things that we had a problem with for a long time is quarterbacks that can run. But for some reason, this past year, that had not been a problem for us at all. And when we faced you the first time, I think Fields, he had a few rushes, 30, 40 yards, and then he only threw for like 40 before he got hurt in the third quarter. So it was like we were able to this year, which was so different, that we were able to, corral a lot of mobile quarterbacks, including Hurts against the Eagles. He didn't do much against us. They ran the ball like crazy with their running backs, Swift, which was, thanks Lions for giving the Eagles Swift, and then getting Gibbs yourself. But so great. But yeah, that's the way we kind of feel about, Fields, is that, in 2022, it looked like with our defense, the way it was playing, that you guys could just run around. He could just run around all day out there and go down and score. So I said it in your show before, I'd see glimpses, and now preseason, I thought he looked like dog shit, like absolute dog shit. But then there's the drive he beat us on while I'm sitting on a cruise ship, sitting next to a Chicago Bear fan. And of course, our quarterback can't do nothing because he's been figured out easily. So yeah, Fields has got something in there, still in his tank, and they just need, hopefully he's not a scapegoat for polls, but I think, I don't know. Give me your honest opinion. Don't you think, based on what you've heard and seen, and that they're done with them and that they're going to draft a QB? Or am I just watching the wrong people?
No. So it's so hard because I've tuned out now the Chicago radio 670 The Score, some of these.
God, I wish I did. I wish I did that to Minnesota radio. It's basically, and I'm not gonna mince words. It's a circle jerk. They quote each other's thoughts.
And
put it on
absolutely.
Twitter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Charlie Walters, who? He's talking about trading Justin Jefferson. Who is this guy? Oh, he works for the Pioneer Press. Show me the article. Show me his where he mentions he has, context. Tell me that. Oh, here you go. It's a link to a Timberwolves article. I'm like, this is not. I mean, and it's behind a paywall. I'm like, come on, guys.
So a
Just
lot
because
of,
someone said it on
yeah.
in a text to you does not mean it's real. Don't go out and put it out there. Twitter runs wild with it. Now
Oh, it does.
we're extending Kirk Cousins and trading Justin Jefferson in the same day I saw both those type of articles. No, I'm sorry. Come on, man.
So
But
yeah,
yeah, it
there's
sounds like you have the same problem.
there's some of those websites that will say, well, here's some crazy trade, just to kind of get clicks and stuff. So you got some of the main guys on Chicago sports radio, some of the beat guys on Chicago Bears, and it's just lately it's snowball that basically everyone is assuming it's going to happen. It could happen, right? But then it's kind of like all this negative of the wins and losses, and I think a part of that happening is everyone is just tired of the same conversation until something actually happens. So, if I was to listen to Chicago radio, it's probably a 90% chance that Justin Fields will be traded, right? Um, if if I would pull that back, and I'm right now, I am still 50-50 because we do not know what's all the conversation. Now that uh, when the combines happening this coming week, all those things are going to really kind of speed up.
Oh yeah.
I
Jesus.
still think there's a lot of value to continuing to keep Justin and kind of continue to build. And even a sentiment within the Bears players, DJ Moore, said he's good. All these players, Justin Fields has a lot of support in that locker room. He just really
I mean,
does.
that's good. And that's like Kirk's a unanimous captain. Everybody now this is funny. So, I got a guy coming on Wednesday. He tweets out that he tweets out Justin Jefferson uh interviewed realizes, what life that there might be life without Kirk. In that same interview, a guy goes, "What do you think of the quarterback situation is going to end up at? What's your sense of the feeling?" And he volunteers the information. I like to have Kirk back. I would love to have Kirk back, he says. And I asked the guy, and I'm like, "You think the bigger story was hey, Justin Fields realizes Kirk's a free agent and might not be back? That's pretty much water is wet news." Or was it Justin Jefferson on the floor of the NFL press room says, "I would love to have Kirk back"? And like, what's else he supposed to say? Not, "I would love to have Kirk back." He could have said the diplomatic, "Hey, whatever the team is,
Yes,
I'm gonna play."
yes,
And like, and then he later does that. So in like 5 interviews later, and they're like, "Hey, see, he's ready to play with anybody." But the first interview, he says, "I'd love to have Kirk back." Come on, I'm like, come on, guys. And there's some people that just want him gone so bad, and I'm like, hey, I would move on if if Kirk's gone. I move on, just like you said, Caleb
yes.
Williams. I'm moving on to whoever, McCarthy, Jay Daniels, whoever the next quarterback is,
Mhm.
and I will be okay. I asked them, would you be okay if Kirk stays? And that's and like crickets, right? So it's like
Mhm.
I am a Vikings fan. You're a Bears fan. We may be considered homers per se, but I mean, come on.
Well,
When I see BS, I call it out. I call it out.
here's the thing, like, if the Vikings management, if they're not, putting their arm around Justin Jefferson saying, "Who do you want as quarterback?" Um, then they're not doing it right. They need, I would say, the Viking. He is Justin Jefferson is the single most important Viking. I mean, I went to the Vikings training camp right this year, and they got the gritty on the wall. The learn how to do the gritty. I mean, it was a
I
big
seen
thing.
some kids doing that. You bring that up
So
because
he's
of
fantastic. Yeah.
one of the scenarios I have is okay, Kirk or no Kirk. If we get the new quarterback and he sucks, we can reset by trading Justin Jefferson. In 2-3 years, he's going to be 27. He's still going to be good. We could reset our franchise with that. So whatever the pay is, $35 million a year, whatever. I mean, the cap went from 188 2 years ago to 255 this year. It's gonna be 300 in 2 years, if at minimum, I think. So we can reset our franchise with, I would say, a couple first round picks for a guy that talented. I mean, we got a first and a third for Percy Harvin. So I'm like, I think we can get two firsts for what's that?
It's a different time though. I mean,
maybe a less important position back then than it is now.
Yeah, that's to say to get 2 firsts for Jefferson. I mean, I think he's talented, but that would be a lot. Maybe a first and a second, or I don't know.
All you need is all you need. You don't think 5 teams will be bidding on this minimum?
I mean, that would be pretty rich. I mean, I feel like now in the social media age.
Okay, I got a first and a second. Hey, I'm going with this unless one of you guys can tell me 2 firsts.
Those seconds,
third, but I want 2 firsts, and it's yours.
Those seconds are so important, though. I don't think so. I just because even like there was for Justin Fields, people are like, "Oh, we'll get a first for Justin Fields." I don't think they get a first. It's maybe a second and a fourth.
I hear second. I think that's probably.
So that in that's what
you don't think right now Justin Jefferson would command 2 firsts?
No, absolutely not. Like Justin Jefferson is that guy, right? But I think these teams, especially second, their picks, they're not like the Rams saying "F them picks." They want to continue to build. Those are important young players because obviously they're more controllable years as opposed to like how much you have to pay. Because a lot of it's like how much he's going to pay. I would say there's absolutely no world that a team will give up 2 first round picks for Justin Jefferson. You just don't have that anymore. There's absolutely no way. No.
You never had it before. No one's ever given. There hasn't been a guy traded. It kind
of. Well, Ricky Williams, right? The Saints just kind of gave up their whole draft for Ricky Williams, right?
And I consider that worse than the Herschel Walker trade. So although I believe Herschel Walker trade's right up there, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're comparing Justin to Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
But that was a pre-draft decision by Mike Ditka, and I still remember the Sports Illustrated cover. Yeah. Well, hey, we talked a lot. Just 2 guys talking football. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on. And before we leave, just tell them again where you can find you on your social media.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. You can find me on NFL Updated on Twitter, X, on YouTube, and on Friesen4, the number 4 pod on the TikTok. Thanks again.
Skol Vikes.